Hello, I'm Jessica from the 18th century. I recently encountered this wonderfully inexpensive fabric from this quaint little shop called Hobby Lobby and used it to fashion my own beautiful dress. Would you like a spot of tea? No? Well, let's just get started with the video then.
This dress was begun by sketching a model wearing the dress that I chose. If you can't tell from that picture, I really like the art style of realism. Just look at that detailed face. Now you will need two different fabrics for this project, one for the main fabric pieces and the other for the lining and smaller details. Also, I'm using this really pretty lace that I got from Hobby Lobby for the sleeves. Then I fashioned the typical half circle skirt by taking some measurements and cutting out the approximate shape of a large piece of pie with a bite eaten out of it. From either side of the pie slice, I cut out an elongated triangle and traced that onto two layers of our other fabric to substitute for those two removed pieces of pie. I machine sewed the two pieces together, but you could hand sew it. You'll find that it's about as efficient as my brother trying to go up a zipline using only his hands. Then I delicately trimmed the top of the material and spun around in the skirt. I prepared for some elastic to visit the premises by folding down the edges. Then I gently shuffled the elastic through like a slow-moving yet very determined inchworm. I cut several strips of fabric to turn into trim and shoved it through the sewing machine, using my fingers to turn it into a roughly lettuce-resembling trim. Next, I pinned and sewed the said strands of roughly lettuce to the sides of the skirt. Also, when I filmed this, it was around the 4th of July, which is my second favorite holiday of the year, and I just love it so much, so take any notice of patriotic outfits worn in this video. Then I started on the bodice of the dress, tracing and cutting out a rough shape from a previously made 18th century dress. By the way, now might be a good time to tell you that I already have two other 18th century dresses. One of them I sewed a few months ago, and the other one I bought. But I firmly believe that you can never have too many historical costumes, so here I am making another one. I traced the shapes onto two more layers of lining fabric so they were triplets of each piece. I turned the triplets into twins by sewing the two lining pieces together, flipping them inside out, and giving them a massage with my iron. Then it was 4th of July, which, as I already mentioned, I love this holiday. Moving on, I made individual cozy little homes for 8 zip ties and sewed them in place. After that, it was time to join the lining piece to the not lining piece and sew them together. And there are the pieces sloppily laid out. Now, if you care about how things look, you will want to iron these pieces, but if you don't care about how things look, you should iron them anyway because they will be very puffy, just like a cloud.
Stink! I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. Okay, that's unfortunate. So, just for a heads up, I just cut out these two layers of this, and I forgot what it's called, but we're gonna make a front panel thing. This, that, I'm gonna put it on the screen. It's right there. This is what it is. Back to voiceover Jessica.
It's me again, and now I'm cutting strips of fabric to add to the panel and turning that into trim the same way that I did with the green fabric. By the way, I later had to redo this because the fabric I used frayed so much that I ended up just sewing down long pieces of fabric, ironing them down, and re-trimifying them. Now for this next part, count with me the number of times I say historical or historically accurate.
This is the part of the show where I tell you that there's a very historically cringy moment in this bodice, and that is that it's not going to be historically accurate. It's going to be kind of historically accurate, but it's not going to close the way that a historical bodice would have closed, but for the front thing, it's going to be like this, and this, and this, but like one of the sides is going to be like Velcro opening. I'm really sorry for all the people who just got mad that that wasn't historically accurate, or maybe it was none of you, I don't know. I promise someday I will make a historically accurate, I don't want to make a promise. I probably someday will make a genuinely historical accurate whole costume, but right now this is the easy costume.
Once you have the phrase historically accurate forever indented in your mind, allow me to turn your attention to the tiny little fake seams I'm putting in the back of the bodice. Then I sewed the pieces together and listened to the delicate sound of a sped-up sewing machine. Sleeves! For this, cut out as many sleeve shapes as you have arms. I made 2 sleeves since I have 2 arms, but if you have more than 2 arms, then make 3 or 4. Get creative. You should end up with these 4 pieces that resemble 2 oddly shaped mushrooms. You'll want to make some of the trim half the width of a small tarantula and the other trim as wide as the length of a bumblebee. I cut up the wider trim into small pieces that I could turn into flowers for the bottom of my dress to add more detail, and the thin trim I planned to use for my sleeves later on. Next, I decided to make some pocket hoops instead of using a hoop skirt. Based on those clips, you should easily be able to make your own pair. Then I used a combination of hand sewing and machine sewing to attach all the trim to the bodice. After that, I attached the Velcro to one side of the bodice. I was almost done, but first I needed to hand sew lace to the sleeves and make these little flowers.
Victorian costume, check. Let's go take a road trip.
So I sailed off to the faraway land of Indiana to drop my brother off at camp and also to model this dress. While in Indiana, I noticed a cool sink, ate a square donut, met a cute but rather creepy bug, and finally transformed into an 18th century lady to model this dress.
I'm gorgeous.
Did you enjoy this video? Well, make sure to let me know by liking and commenting upon this video. And don't forget to subscribe. Ta-ta!